You've lost. The bat is dead.
Don't believe everything you hear, son.
The night is here.
And now, you will fly to him, and you will battle him. To the death. Black and blue. Fight night. The greatest gladiator match in the history of the world. God versus man. Day versus night. Son of Krypton versus Bat of Gotham.
Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to another podcast of CNE. I want to first thank Aldo for his...
Canepa.
Canepa, thank you. And that is, Canepa, Aldo Canepa, for his use of the studios here at SCV TV today, because our audio has been horrible for the last month. So why don't we go around...
This is going to sound great.
Yes, and introduce ourselves. As you know, I'm David Caduto.
I'm Aaron Lanuza.
I'm Sam Tizartes.
And you are listening to another CNE podcast. This one is finally going to be the last, and we do say last, podcast of the month of March. And this is going to be all about Dawn of Justice, and it's going to be full, and I mean full of spoilers. So if you haven't seen the movie, turn it off now. Okay, those of you that are still with us, what did you think? It was a great movie, or I shouldn't say great movie, it was above average movie. Let me get, since Aaron had just come in,
Yes.
let me get your first impressions, Aaron. What was your first impressions walking out of the theater?
Out of the theater or into the theater?
Okay, we'll do both. What was your preconceived notion? I know we talked about it last week, and we've been talking about it for a month, so bear with us.
Yeah.
But your preconceived notion about going in.
Well, okay, so I figured the whole theater was going to be full, but I didn't see that. I didn't see that. Whenever I was there, it was at least half full, and everyone was just in their own different spots. People were talking throughout the movie, and I honestly didn't have a problem with that. And I thought that there were, I thought that I was going to like, all right, I'm going to get into the mood of this. And I think I did at one point. The beginning was really just rushed, I thought. The previews leading up to the movie, the one that I really took with me was the Batman Lego movie. And yeah, it's funny because you see like this whining Batman, and then you see the Batman start, and I don't know if that's the right thing to do. Like you introduce it with something that's making fun of the movie. So
yeah, well, I mean, I'm pretty sure that they own the rights to that too. It is a DC product. So
yeah.
So coming out of the theater, what was your first impression? Like,
I just wanted to look at my friends and then see what their reactions were. And when I mean, throughout the movie, I just felt uncomfortable because I was sitting next to one of my friends that is a girl, and I know that she's not like a big fan, but just knowing that she's coming to see a movie that she was expecting to be very hyped about, she didn't receive that reaction, and just sitting next to a person who just is uncomfortable in their seat makes you feel uncomfortable. So
you were watching more of what the other people's reactions were. I mean, you were watching the movie, but you were also observing her reactions.
I noticed the reactions of my friends, and some of them were trying to get into it too. Like, we got out of our seats a little. We were just trying to like really see what was going on the screen. But I think what took me back at first was the origin story from Batman, when Bruce Wayne had fallen into the well, and he sees these little bats
things coming out.
Yeah, and then all of a sudden, without even like really sparking any fear, he just started flying. And he came out.
So, Sam, what was your first... So we all know you're a comic book fan.
Sure.
So what was your preconceived notion going into the movie?
I was really, really, really excited for the movie. I've been following every single piece of news that's come out of this movie since it was announced at Comic-Con
Die-hard fan.
years ago. Absolutely.
Yeah.
I remember being I was a senior in high school when Ben Affleck was announced as Batman in August of that year.
Wow.
So I've been following it.
Okay, so you told me a little story off air. Tell the listeners and how you got to actually go see the movie on a very...
Okay, so there was a teaser, the teaser trailer for the movie, the first teaser trailer that shows up where it's kind of like focusing on the controversial side of Superman and
Right,
zooming
right.
up on his statue and
The
people-
statue and the voiceover.
There was a Warner Brothers had out a little fan screening kind of thing on social media where you would go and sign up for. There was very limited locations, and you could see this teaser trailer before it was officially publicly released in an IMAX screen.
Okay.
So this was for the Burbank AMC, huge IMAX theater, absolutely amazing. Funny enough, though, that the trailer ends up being leaked 2 days before the screening of this, So Zack Snyder.
Yeah, no, so
I'm assuming people at Warner Bros. Are like, ooh, we have to. How are we gonna make this
damage
hype even
control
more,
type.
So what ends up happening is that when you go, I went to the theater. It was very quick. It only lasted like 10, 15 minutes. But you went inside. There was a little message from Zack Snyder popped up, and it was just like, thank you for showing up. Blah blah blah. You're gonna get some posters, a few extra scenes that's not gonna be released publicly, and a ticket to see the movie a week before. So I mean, and the only difference between the teaser trailer shown and the screening and that was released publicly was that at the end, after the logo comes up, there was a shot of them charging to each other, which made everybody go crazy. Because at that time, it wasn't, not a lot was known about the movie.
But you get to see them fight.
Oh my God! And like just to have them on screen together, it was like, oh, I died. It was like, oh.
Yeah.
And then, so you have the ticket that came that said you can come in the week earlier. So I saw the movie on Monday, and weird experience, just an insane experience. No trailers before the movie or anything. There's security guards at four ends of the theater with night vision goggles, looking at, taking your phones away and everything.
Wow.
It was definitely an experience, and I think that made my viewing of the movie a little more hyped and stuff like that than I guess generally
normal
seeing it.
experience.
Yeah. So what I thought of the movie, I mean, I was going into very, very high expectations.
Right.
There was a lot of controversy, and I admit, casting of Jesse Eisenberg and even Wonder Woman at times, I was like, I don't know if I would, I don't know if I would go that route. But I was like, what, I just got to see the movie first. And I saw it. I was generally not as thrilled as when I went into the theater. I came out with, like, okay, so that's what we're doing. You know what I mean? Like, it wasn't
Right.
So that's where you are. That's where it stands.
I don't know. Yeah, it's like I really don't know how I feel. I'm not very positive and I'm not very negative. I think I'm right in between because there's a lot shoehorned into this movie and there's a lot that you should be like, yeah, but I wasn't because I think overall the movie is very sloppy in terms of like the way it's presented.
Yeah.
There's not a lot of character motivation that makes sense. It's like, and just the story is all over the place at times.
Right.
And Zack Snyder's an amazing filmmaker. I think he's visually stunning what he puts up on the screen, but I think the story very, very much lacks in comparison to Man of Steel, which was the previous movie.
Right.
But at this point, I'm just like, I have to see it a second time to really
Absorb what you
it
didn't
more.
get it. So
because I've only seen the movie once and I've had a week to kind of process kind of what I've seen. I thought the performance of Ben Affleck as Batman was absolutely amazing. I think he does a great job on screen as the character.
Yeah,
I think
I would agree
couldn't
with
have
that.
done a better job.
I think he is probably the best part of that movie. I mean, if you want to get into the comic book fanboys of, he kills people in the movie, whatever.
No, that's. I mean, look, I think the casting was decent.
Sure.
I mean, I
Yes.
remember back when Affleck was actually, he was actually cast, and there was a petition that just, I mean, it was about 5,000 or 6,000 signers, and they said, how could you, how could you cast him, blah blah blah. And
Well, you can't take those things seriously. Just like with Deadpool, how Deadpool had the 3D or the PG-13 rating petition as well.
Right, and so
But they weren't ever going to do that.
no.
I guess it was just kind of the first real time seeing a petition come out like that for an actor cast in a role. Because I don't think ever in
I've
the case of
ever
a Marvel
seen that.
movie,
Or
or a
just
comic
in
book movie in
general.
general, or absolutely in a movie where
I
there's
mean,
actually
that
a
was
petition
more of a
for,
precedent than anything else. And I think, but more over than that, I think that really showed the passion of the fans.
Oh, I mean,
like, how
absolutely.
could you really
Yes. This was a
destroy a movie
land-breaking
with that?
Yeah.
It's-
Hindsight's 2020.
Sure.
I'd be curious to see those people that signed those petitions. I'd be curious if they saw, if you asked them today, did you really feel bad about signing it? I'd be curious to see what they'd say. That being said, what was the biggest, I guess, surprise? Like, what was the biggest surprise for both of you guys? I know there were a couple for me.
It's a really hard a question to answer because, like you mentioned earlier with the trailers, there was a second trailer that came out, 3-minute movie.
Well,
and I feel like I wasn't surprised because I've already seen everything.
No, and I think,
you know what I mean?
Yeah.
we were talking about
Everything
this
was
off air. I think that DC, this is their first run at it, and I think the fact is that they didn't know what they were doing.
And it definitely shows when you see. Actually, I think okay. So something that surprised me, but in a bad way, was the Justice League cameos or the Justice League Easter eggs and things like that.
Yeah.
Teases that are going to be. I thought it was so shoehorned in there that it was
too
little.
Well, and here's the thing. I
Yeah.
think 2.5 hours, they could have almost done without Lois Lane in this movie. I hate to say that. I know she's Superman's love interest and everything else, but
She was just
at
playing the damsel in distress. Really.
She really
did, yeah.
was.
She was.
And it just, to me, when you were just talking about being shoehorned, it was almost like we got 5 minutes of her at the Daily Planet, and that's it. You know, the scene where, you know, she's trying to find out with the bullet and everything else. Look, here's the thing.
She literally
we
played the
don't
dance
need
the
to
whole
see
I mean, there was a
any
sequence where
of this.
remember she drops the kryptonite spear into the water,
Right.
Then she goes back to get the spear,
Yeah.
and
I didn't understand. When did she ever have the conversation with anybody about, like, hey, you know what? That kryptonite spear, we're going to need that thing.
Right, absolutely.
Well, she never had that
No,
conversation.
and she didn't. And I got to wonder, like, how. I understand she needed to be in the film. I get that.
Yeah.
But I just don't think that. And to your point, she was, you know, trying to stop them from fighting because she knew about Batman. Trying to think off the top of my head. Anyway, she knew a piece of information Batman didn't, and so that was why.
Yeah.
You know, but it just didn't make any sense.
I think that a lot of the movie was just very forced.
Yes.
They had too much that they wanted to put in that I think since the very beginning, since the very start, they just were trying to compile too much information into it.
Right.
To make it something that was even more than just one movie.
They
Or
could
not
have made this
characters.
2 movies, and they would have been perfect.
Yeah, if you think about like movies like Mockingjay.
That is a perfect
Yeah,
example.
because
Mockingjay,
it's
you've
the-
got Harry Potter, you've got all
Exactly.
these movies that it's so big and so dynamic.
that you need time.
You
really
need time, and you need the fact of you need to build these stories.
Yeah.
And look, we're not saying. By the way, I thought they spent just the right amount of time with Batman's origin story.
it's
I
in the
thought-
credits. You don't need it. I mean,
No.
it's great. I love that.
I loved it.
Or it's
and
in the
everything
opening,
else. I thought the dream sequences,
Yeah.
fantastic.
That
But
that
I
whole
was-
Mad Max Batman thing
Yeah.
was absolutely, and you get the little dark
Interesting,
side to
yeah.
it. It was amazing. I love
But it
that.
was
I could see
great.
a whole movie with that going on. I love
Exactly.
that.
But I just I didn't necessarily need, you know, and this was mostly, I mean, we were discussing earlier, this was more about Batman than it was Superman.
And that brings up
think
the thing
so,
when you guys
too.
talking about Lois Lane. I think it's trying to be a sequel to Man of Steel with Batman in there.
Yes.
But at its core, it's a Batman movie with the Superman supporting cast
Superimposed.
widely in the background.
Right.
And I think that
Because
in
there was
order,
no changing
No.
his character. There was no dynamic to him.
and I think that what financially, it's probably a good move on Warner Brothers' part because Man of Steel didn't perform to the expectations that they originally wanted. And I think that putting Batman and Superman together in a movie, no matter how well it does critically,
Listen, it's going to make
it's going to make a lot of money. And I think
Okay.
that
I think so too. There's
It's-
no way.
Look,
So
we're
much
not
hype.
saying that this movie's not going to make money. Okay.
oh no, yeah, absolutely.
It's going to make between 120 to probably 160 this weekend.
That's
it's going to
domestic.
make 300 to 350 worldwide just this weekend.
Yeah.
So it's covered.
I think you
Okay.
put Batman and Superman together in a movie, the
Everything-
puppy's going to make money no matter what.
Everything else is icing on the cake.
I think there should have been a Man of Steel sequel with Superman because we don't have that status quo that
No.
you know what I mean? Like he just kills Zod and then it's like
That's it.
That's great. That's cool. Like we're ready to move on. And I think it was so rushed. You know what I mean?
Right.
And I think you should have had another Superman movie
Yeah, explain what is
explaining,
Yeah, well,
getting Superman to where we know him
And
to
see,
be.
they're assuming as fans that from the end of Man of Steel to the beginning of Dawn of Justice, you know, time's obviously elapsed. Everybody's happy with Superman, blah blah blah, and everything's copacetic.
And
That's not the case.
They ask you to buy that Superman
Exactly.
has changed from this movie to this movie,
Right.
but I wanted to see more of that.
The change.
I mean, because I value character way more than I do story, and I
Right.
think that I don't know if you've ever seen Chronicle.
No, but I know of it.
Chronicle is a very great example of a superhero movie that values the characters so much that regardless of how lame the story could be at its core, you care so much because the motivations and the characters themselves are so great that you're like, all right, I got this.
Yeah.
But by the end of the movie of Batman versus Superman, I didn't care. I mean, I
Yeah.
was like,
No,
they were fighting Doomsday, and I just don't care
Yeah.
because Ben Affleck was great as Batman. Like I said, he was an excellent character, excellent choice for that casting. Henry Cavill doesn't change at all.
I think what sums up that point very well is the one scene when Lois Lane is in the shower, or she's in the tub.
Yes, yeah.
Yes, no, and I was just, you hit the nail right in the head.
I only-
well,
can
finish
I-
your thought, and I
okay.
have something to say.
Because that scene just depicts the way that is set in
Yeah.
motion. Because we're saying that this character was not dynamic. He didn't really
Yeah.
change at all. Well, he didn't have enough time to change out of his clothes to even do anything with his girlfriend.
Yeah.
Okay.
I just think
Two
that was
things.
a really big.
Two things.
That was a
and
big
then
point.
that was a perfect segue. Here's my thing. About 3-4 years ago, I'm sure you guys remember the Sony hack.
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
So in that hack, Jennifer Lawrence found out exactly how much money she made for a movie called American Hustle, which she was nominated for an Oscar. And so, she wrote this very long, lengthy letter about saying how, and this is why she's come out so vividly and so harshly against fair pay for men and women, and I totally agree. That being said, Amy Adams also had said, to a certain extent, that, if we feel like we have to do other roles just to, what's the word I'm
Get the
looking for?
part?
Just to be on the same ground, okay? And, the first thing I thought of in this movie, when I see her in the bathtub, completely naked, was
Oh.
we are trying to, first of all, we're trying to get away from, this has all been about diversity in the last year and a half or 18 months, would you say?
Yes.
With the
absolutely.
Oscars and whatnot. That being with, gender, even race. That being said, you're depicting a female in a bathtub, naked, talking to her boyfriend. Okay? Completely unnecessary.
Yeah.
The other thing I have to say is, why, if you're Amy Adams, why are you letting this happen? I understand it's in the script. I understand it's part of the story, but come on. Really?
More self-respect, dignity.
You didn't feel like it fit into
I
the
know.
concept? Okay.
And that's my problem here. Because
See, I don't really have that issue. I actually wouldn't even have thought of that, to be honest with you.
Here's the thing. We're so worried about having roles for women and powerful women in film and everything else, and now you're showing a woman who is basically, I don't want to use the word submissive because that's not the right word, but she's in a compromising position, okay, in a bathroom, and she's completely naked. Come on. And there wasn't any gratuitous nudity, and I understand that. But what are you thinking if you're Warner Brothers or DC? And especially Amy. I
think
had to
that's
wrap my head around that
I have
because
a feeling that has something to do with the stigma that's already attached to
but
those
that's what
performances.
irked me the most. The minute I saw that scene, when she, draw the bath, I get that, and she was looking at something, and then you have, the next thing you see her, the next shot you see her is when Clark walks in with the bag of groceries. Oh, I was gonna cook, honey. Well, what is? I mean,
Really?
Yes, and that just drove me up a wall.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah,
this is
I
insane.
guess so. Yeah,
Because
it kind of really shows the dynamic.
I
between
liked it.
male and
I
female
thought that.
character.
I mean, because
I understand.
I like those characters interacting with each other, and I think
I get the
that's-
relationship. I get that they're living together. I get that
I would have never thought about the whole
But
diversity.
the fact that you're showing a woman in a bathtub, nearly fully nude, okay, when we're talking so much about diversity and trying to get powerful women roles and everything else, and now you're having this.
Yeah,
I was really. I gotta be honest. I was almost offended.
Well,
as a fan, because
just imagine how
this
long ago this movie was actually made.
No,
and that
I
scene was
understand
actually
that. I
portrayed.
get that. But at the same time, you're telling me, and you're right about one thing. They couldn't foresee the future and say, well, this is going to be the issues a couple years down the road. I completely agree with you. But at the same point, how many movies have you guys seen over the years where females are not as depicted strongly enough that there could be a whole different thing? That just drove me.
I would disagree with that in this case.
But that just drove me up a wall.
Sam, what do you think?
I would disagree in this case of this movie because the fact that Wonder Woman is in this movie for the first time is
Which, by
a
the way,
great
stole the
example of
show.
how the people at Warner Brothers were like, yeah, let's put her in this movie. She deserves her movie. Like she deserves to be on screen. And she came off great. She came off amazing. Like I liked when she was on screen. I thought she did a great performance.
She wasn't on screen enough. I mean,
I
say that.
I mean, I'm excited for her movie.
You know.
Yeah, no, I think so too. They needed more story behind her.
No, I think
you need Lois.
And if you
with
want to talk
Superman,
about a juxtaposition about a strong woman and Wonder Woman, and then her being I can buy that argument. I can buy that argument, but.
And she was very strong as a woman.
No, absolutely.
They portrayed her.
And I
as
think
that
Lois
type of
is a great character.
No, I agree with
you. Amy Adams portrays Lois as a great like a companion with Clark, and I think that she grounds him as well as his mother Diane Lane or Martha Kent. And I think the females portrayed in this movie mostly are damsel in distress, but you have Wonder Woman who comes along and she comes out. She's so empowering and strong,
yes.
and at the end, the only thing I do care about is when I see her on screen. And I'm like, wow, absolutely.
I think I agree. I agree with that. She is a very strong character. And then when you see her in her costume, though, I mean, she's very beautiful.
Sure.
And like this is how a woman is supposed to be dressed, I suppose, in society, along with the way that a man is supposed to be dressed. Like it just society has like this way of depicting a character. But she wore her clothing in the right fashion.
No, absolutely. Nice. I'm not disparaging the fashion or the acting of any of the women.
Neither am I. But my point is, whenever she's wearing her costume, when she's wearing her suit, to go fight,
yes.
I just think to myself, why so tight? Why the tight clothing? And then I noticed that she also has high heels on.
Yeah.
To fight.
Well, yeah.
She's
No,
out there
I did
fighting with
notice
high heels on.
She had high heels on?
Yeah, and she has a tight skirt, but she also has something to protect her knees. So if she doesn't have
that's
to
part of the
protect her legs,
costume, I guess.
What's going on with that?
I mean, so
there's just a little flaw in that.
I could see that. I could see that. I don't know. I guess that just drove me up a complete wall. And like I said, I'm not disparaging any of the female actors. They did a phenomenal job. It was just, to me, the fact that we're talking about this in 2016, and then you put this on screen, even for 5 minutes, because it was 5 minutes too long.
I think where we are right now is we're at a breaking point, and that's where you are.
Yes.
But I think that's,
And I'll be honest with you, I don't think
that's
many
where
people thought of that.
Is.
And
I watched the movie, would never even imagine.
And that to me was my first reaction, because it was such a big thing.
Yeah.
6 months, and even
I
today.
wouldn't have never thought about it.
I thought it was a great scene because it showed
but I just
Clark and
thought
Lois
it was
living
more,
together, and I just thought that was okay, great. Like they've obviously have adapted and moved evolved since Man of Steel. I loved it. I would never even have thought. I thought it was a cute scene. It
really
worked
was,
in the context of the Superman character.
And maybe I'm overreacting. But it was
no.
just to the point of, look, you're trying to show, and I found it humorous. Not humorous. That's not the right word. I found it very strange. It was the same actress.
Amy Adams?
Yes.
You thought it was strange?
No, it's strange. What
because
I mean
the story
what
literally has
strange,
to go on with
strange by the point of she's coming out and saying all of these things, and then here she is in a bathtub.
I think that's another issue.
No, that is another issue for another time.
I wonder what that
I'm
was
trying
happening.
to say is
happening in production.
that I think when she read the script, and obviously she didn't have a problem with it, I think that she could have probably talked to Zach and say, hey, look, could we change it up a little bit? And I'm sure they did, but maybe that was the one that worked the most. Anyways, we move on. We're not going to get it anymore.
There are so many other things.
There's so many other things. Yeah. So what did we think
Back
about...
on the movie now.
But what did we think about Darkseid? Or not Darkseid, I'm sorry. I keep confusing the two. Doomsday. we all knew Doomsday was going to be the villain just because of that 3-minute trailer.
Yeah.
What did we think of him? I mean, was it more than how? I mean, did you guys like him?
I was hoping that Zod, his character, was slightly going to come out a little bit.
Yeah.
Just like this little tiny ounce, this little piece of Zod. You would see that he was there, his strength in his mind, because he was he had.
He was a very strong character.
Yeah,
absolutely.
he was. He was very strong in his mind, and he knew what he wanted. But I was hoping that his smarts would come out a little bit.
Right.
That was something that we didn't see. We saw that this like angry, just this brute force was out to get Superman, and he was on a level where Lex Luthor was just his master.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
I thought it was interesting. I mean, he was just a very angry character.
Yeah. What did you think? What was? I mean, obviously we knew about
Right.
Doomsday.
And I
but
was mad from the start because I thought that you could have totally used Doomsday in a future Superman movie and used
Right.
the death of Superman and that whole
Yeah.
thing, and I think that would have been really cool. But now you can't use that
Yeah,
now because
right.
Doomsday's already been on screen.
Yeah.
But I mean, they still managed to kill Superman off. But that's
Yeah.
we'll
no,
talk about that.
that was yeah. I mean, he eventually did.
Yeah.
You know,
Hey, is he
go.
dead, though? Is he dead?
eventually.
Oh yeah, I mean, last shot where the dirt starts.
Yeah,
on the
I mean,
table,
that
and,
was,
yeah,
you
he's-
know.
I mean, he's gonna come back in the
Yeah,
Justice League,
exactly.
But I don't know.
He's
I
coming
think
back
that
in
he could have
Justice-
waited for.
Now
a
this
different Superman
brings
movie.
me to another point because I ended up seeing a little sneak online, and it was telling us.
Yeah. By the way,
Yeah.
and this is, and Aaron's been holding this. We got to say this to Aaron. Aaron's been holding this for about a week,
It's a breath of fresh
and
air.
now he can just basically let it loose.
Okay. I saw this leak that was online that said that there's going to be this initiative to bring out a character that we didn't know about before, and that was going to be Bizarre. That we were going to
Bizarro.
see Bizarro. That we were going to see Bizarro come into the play. I honestly thought we were going to see him in the movie,
And that's what I thought
but
too.
we didn't. We
And
didn't see
I
it.
was kind of not shocked. That wasn't the right word because I knew Doomsday was such a
How much
big
a
character,
difference
but-
would it have been if you didn't know anything about what particularly Lex Luthor's plan was, and he finds a way to bring Bizarro or create Bizarro in his
Yeah.
own way? So it's
yeah.
metaphorically, it's
Yes.
like it works more with the story because it's like
Metaphorically, I think that they did use so many things to bring Lex Luthor
Yeah.
to actually like make Bizarro
Yeah.
come to life.
Yeah.
And yes, I think you're right.
yeah. I
You're
think
right.
I mean it's the issue of the movie is should there be a Superman?
Yeah.
But by the end of the film,
Yeah. Well, here's my question. What did we think about how they introduced the other Justice League members?
Oh, you mean by online?
I didn't.
Like
It
using a
didn't even
computer?
occur to me until the
files?
seconds.
Doing
about
every
a half
movie
an hour.
that Marvel
right,
did,
about
8 years.
right.
Like-
about a half an hour left in the film. She gets the email from Bruce.
oh my god.
Is that
And
you?
then,
Wait, and then you
is that you? Where have you been? Blah blah blah. And she opens the file, and then she's going through the day. I went.
Well, first you
"There's a
see the
W.
Flash
There's a Flash.
show up in the
I went,
dream sequence.
Oh
Yeah.
no! There's a,
Getting
I went.
Which took me a minute to realize that's the Flash
Yes.
because he's covered in an armored suit.
Yes.
And then under the armored helmet
Right.
is his mask, and then you can see the emblem.
Right.
But it took me a minute to like,
Yeah.
oh, who the heck was that?
Yeah.
So that was the cool. That was a kind of like, okay, cool, great. You know, obviously that might have something to do with a future
Right.
Justice League movie comes back in time or whatever.
Yeah.
Then you see that email sequence
Yes.
you're talking about. And I was like, oh my God, we're really doing this. Like, we're really just,
Yeah.
I mean, because there was
Yeah,
there was a
snappy.
picture that was posted of Jason Momoa as Aquaman. You expected to have a kind of bigger
Yep.
role with him in this
Yeah.
movie.
Right.
But it's just a security feed camera from a
Yeah.
drone underwater, and that's it. And then he looks like he's holding his breath,
Right.
first of all.
Yeah.
It looks like he was uncomfortable. His
Yeah.
eyes just like,
Yeah.
I can't really see, but I'm
Right.
gonna try to make it appear as though
Yeah.
I'm okay and comfortable.
And then you have the Flash convenience store thing, which was kind of cool.
Yeah.
I thought
no,
that was cool.
that
was a
was
good
But the
neat.
cyborg one was it was whole wacky.
know.
It was really weird. It was just
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
it's the dude from Terminator 2, the doctor from
Yes.
Terminator 2.
Robert Patrick.
Yeah.
Robert
and
Patrick.
He's doing this thing with Cyborg, and I was like, oh my God, like we're doing what Marvel is trying to do in separate movies, but shoehorning
Exactly.
it. How
And-
great would have that been if it was Bruce Wayne doing it at the end of the credits?
Yeah.
That would have been
That
way
would have been a
cooler.
perfect. And by the way, at
You're
least
right,
the
you're
theater I was in, I don't know about you guys, there wasn't a person that I mean. So the first two rows, because I went to go see it in IMAX, as I'm sure
Yeah.
you two did.
I
The
saw
first two
regular
rows
version.
were okay. The first two rows were pretty much empty, and the first row of the aisle and then up above was basically completely full, except for a few straggler seats. There wasn't one person that got up and left. I think everybody was expecting a
Yeah.
cutscene.
I was too. You're right. You're right.
And the fact that there was no cutscene, I thought, was just They dropped the ball.
And maybe
again.
that's the
They
difference
did,
between
yeah.
Marvel and DC.
And
is that
they
Marvel will
dropped
do
the
these
ball
scenes because that's their
again.
thing. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I just don't understand how many times you can make mistakes and still be successful.
Then I think what to respond to that, I think what they may be doing is expecting to see where Batman versus Superman was going to go.
Well,
And also separating themselves from Marvel because that's Marvel's
I can appreciate
thing.
that.
You know what I mean?
I see.
So I think that it's like, okay, look, we can't do the end credit scenes because that's their thing and that they do a great job with that. So let's try to maybe incorporate the Easter eggs into our story, but it lacks because it does take you away from the movie is titled Batman versus Superman. The plot of the movie should be focused on these two icons coming together
Going
to fight.
together.
But there are times when, like that sequence specifically, and others that take away from that. And it's like, what are we doing here? Like,
Yeah, exactly.
it's a 2.5-hour
They
movie.
could have done that in 2 movies.
Yeah.
And literally separated it to Batman versus Superman.
Absolutely.
Led it up to even slight hint of
Yeah.
or Wonder Woman, and then introduce all the characters of the Justice League.
I think it was a bold concept. I think you have to give them credit for being able.
No,
to be like, look,
absolutely.
we have to be able to not copy, but we have to be able to emulate Marvel somehow. We have to catch up with them.
Absolutely.
completely, like,
well,
follow
and
exactly
that's
Right.
the thing. And I think that, and to your point about the Easter eggs, I can understand that. But at the same time, I think we can both agree Hollywood is based on fads. And Hollywood is based on trends. And whatever it is, whether it be a science fiction movie, whether it be a comic book movie or whatever, the fact is, if you see somebody doing something and it's successful, you want to copy what he's doing.
Absolutely.
And
That's
it doesn't
how,
matter.
That's how Superman ended up getting copied in the first place.
Right. And so I think the fact is that if they wanted this to be successful, why aren't you going? Look, it's not like Marvel's got copyrights on the Easter eggs as far as the end credits.
Absolutely.
I think you absolutely, and since this is your first bite at the apple, I think you have to put something in the end just to try and keep it
Flowing.
fresh.
Yeah.
Or
And
at least
something
take some of
you know?
the baggage off of the main
Yeah.
plot.
I
Because
thought this. Yeah, go ahead.
The Easter eggs. You're saying that like maybe they're putting these Easter eggs into the movie to like just instead of putting an end credit and then introducing something else. But for those audience members who don't actually look for those Easter eggs,
Right.
it's not something that they could just leave the theater expecting to see or expect for the next movie.
Right.
They're there and they want to know exactly, like, feed it to me, spoon feed it to me,
Right.
tell me what I'm going to be expecting for the next DC movie.
But I think people like to be teased at the same time.
And I have no problem with Easter eggs. I think there's plenty of them in here that don't distract from the plot. I mean, there's a shot in the Batcave when Bruce Wayne's walking and you see the Robin suit,
Yeah, absolutely.
which implies that there was a Robin at
Yeah.
one time, which is a cool Easter
Yeah.
egg. I mean, there are other little things like that. I mean, even the bat signal was an Easter egg.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, cool, wow, right. I mean,
Yeah.
but it's just things that I just don't like when there's a lot of teases that ultimately take over the plot and end up you trying to distract you when there's a huge issue going on.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I thought that the fight between Batman and Superman was great visually. I thought it was awesome.
Absolutely.
I think that the title Batman versus Superman does not apply to this movie. I think this is a Batman movie
No.
with Superman in the background.
They forced that. They
Yeah.
I
forced that
agree with
fight.
you wholeheartedly, and I think you're both right.
The main character, the main villain is Lex Luthor at its core. I think we should have seen more of him. I think there should have been more motivation driving him. I think you could have done without a lot of Superman's cast, but I think that at this core of this movie, Ben Affleck does a great job. I think the Batman character is amazing. I loved everything about him. You know, if I want to go really be picky, I'll be like, yeah, maybe he shouldn't kill people. But
Yeah.
it's a
well-
great contrast to Superman.
Well, no.
Can I
and
just say this really quick? I'm sorry, but
Yeah.
with the Batman character, he's saying, all right, so like even if there's one hint of Superman being
Yeah.
horrible, that is not good for this world. If there's a 1% chance, we have to take it.
Yeah.
He's saying this, but he's the one with the guns, and he's the one who,
Right.
who will like
But-
go to those lengths to,
Yeah.
to be someone who we don't even understand. We don't know.
And as a comic book fan since I was a little kid, that's Batman.
Yeah.
Batman is all about, you know, there's a line in the movie where he's talking about his legacy, right? And
Something
he's-
that like he doesn't draw the
right.
line.
And there was a part where he's like, you know, criminals are like weeds.
You pull
right?
one out,
This is a
another one appears.
This is a Batman that's broken. This is a Batman that
Exactly.
maybe didn't kill at one time, but he has nothing left at this point. And maybe that's why he resorts to this. But this movie is kind of inspired by, I don't know if you've ever heard of this it's a graphic novel called Dark Knight Returns.
Yes.
Frank Miller wrote it.
Yes.
It pretty much redefined the character of Batman.
Yes.
There's a lot of lines in this movie that are taken directly from that. I mean, the whole fight with Batman and Superman is almost page per page shot of that fight in that book. And there's a line where he has a gun pointed at a guy, and he's holding Martha Kent.
Yeah.
And he's like, don't kill. I'll kill her, man. Believe me, I'll do it. And he's like, I believe you.
I
and
believe
that's an
you.
exact. And I got all crazy about that because I was like, I remember reading that panel when he's doing that, and I think that the Batman character in this movie is so great, and I think that he's a great contrast to Superman. I wish we had more with Superman. I wish we had more of that status quo that I wish we could have had. But this is a dark movie. It's a very serious and dark tone movie that I don't think you could sit here with a child and expect to come out without any nightmares. I mean, that nightmare sequence with Batman is scary.
Yeah.
I mean, he comes and he visions two dudes next to him chained. I mean, it's a very dark movie.
No, it's
And I think that's what it lacks in terms of. I wish it was more fun. I wish I could go in there and go, yes. I mean, fine.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I was just like,
it's DC is like a darker version of what Marvel of what they were trying to compete with. And
even the first 10 minutes of the movie, of Bruce Wayne's perspective of that battle in Man of Steel, so many. I mean, I sat there like, because so many 9/11 correlations. I was just like,
oh my god.
Whoa!
Yeah.
I mean, there's people falling from the buildings.
Yeah,
and
he runs right.
It was
into
like
the smoke.
Whoa! I mean, it was almost disturbing. Like, oh my god!
Yeah.
Like they're really going like
That's true.
hardcore with it.
Yeah,
I was like really almost disturbed.
I
at
think
that,
that you
right
know,
off the bat, but
it's just one of those things that it's. I mean, as you put it earlier, it's a lot to be put. Both of you, and I think all three of us agree. It's a lot to be put in 2.5 hours.
It is.
It really
it is.
Yeah.
This movie could have. It easily could have been, if we wanted to, and I know they didn't for ratings purposes. This could have been a 3-hour movie. Easily been a 3-hour movie.
And
no
you're
way.
lucky because there is a 3-hour movie that's going to come out on DVD.
I would not be able to sit in my seat if it was a 3-hour movie.
And I think that's
they didn't
the
make
thing.
the script right.
Right,
It's just
and
not
I think
movie
that
for a 3-hour.
And I said this earlier too. I've got to give a lot of kudos to Skylar Barty because, in this, he's been talking a lot about the way you challenge Superman is how his morals are, and that's what they basically did in this movie. Is Superman this moral guy that is supposed to be here to help us, or is he here to hurt us? Mm-hmm. And they didn't really know, and they really did question that. And I think that was the big thing.
That was the big thing halfway through the movie, but then that plot goes away.
Yes,
and
as soon as that one scene,
something else.
I'll be honest, I got a little chills where he walks in, and so. Do you remember the scene about the peach juice?
Yes.
Okay, where they're in Luther's house and she's talking to the senator, and they're talking about peach juice, and then about the next scene you see is in the Senate hearing, and so she starts to talk, and then she
can't talk
anymore. Can't talk anymore, and then she turns the jar and it says peach juice. And then wham.
Or grandma's?
Yeah.
The grandma's peach tea,
wham. And the explosion happens.
It's really urine. It's like,
I was wondering what it was.
Yeah, no, because there was a line where he was like...
Well, is this piss or not? You can piss all over it.
Right.
Oh.
And so, wham, the explosion happens, and you see the horse rear back and the sparks.
Yeah,
that was an
intense
intense scene. And it was like, wow.
I mean, this movie is like, there are so many times where it's like, this is not your grandma's Superman, it's not your grandma's Batman. Like, it's not light. It's not the spit curl Christopher Reeve style Superman. And there's a part of me that really appreciates that, and there's a part of me that follows that because that's what I grew up on.
Yeah.
But I appreciate this new take, but it's so dark that it's like...
Yeah, it's too dark.
Yeah.
And that's the problem, I think.
It's so dark that Superman is just realizing in this movie that, like, hey, you know what? They aren't ready for me. Like, what am I doing here?
He starts to contemplate his existence as like, what was I doing? Like Superman he had this line, Superman was never real.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, and
my world is on Krypton.
Right, exactly.
My world died a long time ago.
Yeah.
The themes are so dark, and I think that's like, if you're going to take your little kid to this movie, and Superman and Batman are going to fight. You know what I mean?
It's so fascinating, and it's so fascinating that they got a PG-13 rating out of this because if you were to actually delve into it, and I've looked at it, the MPAA, Motion Picture Ratings Association of America, and to say what constitute a PG-13, and it's really, they're allowed to use one curse word and
That's it,
violence.
One curse
Just
word.
one. And if you use more than one, then it's a rated R film.
Well, I don't know if you've heard of it. You know, so they have an Ultimate Edition that's coming out on DVD that is 30 minutes longer. It's a 3-hour movie, and it's rated R.
Yes.
So there are scenes that, I mean, you can tell when you watch the movie
Right.
theatrically that there are scenes that are taken out. You can tell that nightmare sequence with Batman in the desert, there are things taken out of it.
Absolutely,
And so,
it's
I
almost-
mean-
it almost cut, it jumped.
Yeah. Oh,
And-
and that's the problem with a lot of this movie. This whole movie is like the cuts are weird.
And I know you
know
were
what I mean?
talking about the editing earlier. You thought it was edited poorly?
Yes.
I thought so too. I agree with you.
You
so
jump from
much.
shot to shot to shot,
Yes.
and there's no exterior.
My eyes
yeah.
were like burning. I was trying to like squint to
weird.
see the whole thing. Did you remember that one PBS interview they were doing?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
You
The
see that it's
Charlie Rose.
crisp. It's a crisp
Right.
scene. It looks so HD, and I'm like, all right. Why does the TV look better than the actual movie?
Oh, God.
It's just the video. It was grainy.
Yeah.
And they just had a weird filter on it.
And then you cut. It's the shot. It's before the nightmare sequence.
Yes.
The nightmare sequence is filmed in IMAX, right?
Yes.
But when he's starting to daydream a bit, you can
Yes.
tell as soon as that switches to the nightmare, it's like totally different, and it's
Yeah.
just like whoa, it feels like a different movie.
Yeah.
But the cuts were like weird. Like it's, they go from one plot to the next plot to the next plot, back over to Clark. Now that we're gonna go over here to
Yeah.
Lex. I mean, it was just weird.
Yeah. And
You know what I mean?
I
It
just
didn't
think
flow.
Oh yeah.
it's going to be
It's like
fascinating.
the Star Wars
to see.
prequels with the swipes and stuff like that. It's like what the hell?
Well, but see, you know, in all
they-
honesty,
they
though.
were going back into like.
But
something-
see, I
their
gotta
old
say
days,
something
though.
about that because Star Wars, they I won't say put cornered the mark on it, but that is one of their trademarks.
Yeah.
As far as the way they dissolve into the next scene, that's just their trademark.
Yeah, I'm just
And
saying.
no,
The
I
prequels have their
completely
issues.
understand.
That's another podcast.
Yeah.
To
No,
rant
but
about them.
That's
but
another thing. But it's like,
it just felt that style of
Right.
like let's just
yeah.
swipe to the next.
They, had they,
you know what I
they
mean?
would have been better off doing that.
Yeah.
To be frank, or
Yeah.
have a little circle in and then come. If they almost made this comic bookish, the way they could have made it a little more comic bookish
And
is
the super
that's the new word for
Wonder
the day,
Woman?
boys and girls. Is comic bookish. Is that they could have used little dissolves like that to actually circular and then come out, or done something. They could have used it with the dissolves.
I think one of the
Or the
comic
transitions.
bookish, one of the comic bookish things they did was using a theme song for Wonder Woman when she was starting to fight.
Yes,
You know the fight
yes.
scene where it was like
Yeah.
The minute she comes out and she has the arms crossed, it's like, okay, we get it. It's Wonder Woman.
Yeah.
And,
you know what? Okay. Yesterday I kept thinking, what did I hear that from? Her theme music sounds like something I've heard before. I remember now.
what was it?
From Spy Kids. Spy
Okay.
Kids. You can hear if you compare the two, you'll hear that the Wonder Woman
Oh,
music
really?
that plays in the background sounds exactly like the Spy Kids theme song. When all the kids are just they look superheroish and they're all looking at the
That's
camera.
fascinating. I'll have to check that out. But it's just one of those things that it's just, I don't know. This movie, I mean, I was saying to him earlier that I know we've talked about it, that I think that Marvel and DC, Marvel was doing it right in the fact that they introduced origin stories first and then came out with the big movie in the Avengers, whereas they're doing it completely 180 degrees and opposite, and they're putting out the big movie first, and then you're doing origin stories, and to me that is just, it's backwards,
Yeah.
and it's not right. And I think, I think Skylar touched on it last week, that the fact he said these are more about stories with the characters than they are, they're superheroes. They're people that are superheroes more than the superheroes that are people. And I think that they really don't get to that route in this movie. And it's really going to be fascinating moving forward with all of these other origin stories coming up,
Yeah.
how they're going to make you care about the character that much.
And I think at this movie's core, it's basically felt like to me overall, this movie was a giant teaser for what's to come. It wasn't a movie that was focused on its own plot. It was focused on what we're gonna do next. You're gonna have the Flash. You're gonna have Aquaman. You're gonna have Cyborg. You're gonna have the Justice League. You're gonna have Darkseid. You're gonna have Suicide Squad. You're gonna have all these things. You're gonna have a solo Batman movie. You're gonna have all these things that you're looking forward to. But I want to focus on here and now, and that's what I love so much about the Marvel movies is that, yes, you have these Easter eggs that's gonna show. I mean, for Avengers, Age of Ultron, you have those teases about Thanos and
Right, absolutely.
Infinity War.
You know.
But it does not detract from the current problem of the story, the current story and the plot. And that's what this movie fails to do, is that it's so much setting up these characters, shoehorning them into one movie, having all these subplots that don't get resolved. You have a giant fight with Batman and Superman that may last 10 minutes tops, that ultimately goes nowhere.
Yeah.
They're cool. A scene later, they fight Doomsday. That's it. We're going to set up the Justice League. They expect you to be like, we're good to go. Let's do it. But I just don't feel satisfied with that.
I think that's a great.
I would agree with that. I think, now listen, I have to say this. If Justice League Part 1 comes out, and it's everything that the Avengers was, and I mean story, and I mean characters, and I mean everything else, then I don't have a problem with what
Yes,
they're doing.
but how can you expect that by seeing the quality of
Now,
this
and
movie?
You
I
just can't, because here's the thing. With Marvel, you had movie on movie on movie to build up. You know these characters. That's why it was so thrilling to see them on screen together.
Right.
Like, oh my God! There's Captain America. There's Iron Man. He was Iron Man 2, Iron Man 1. You've built them. You know
Right.
what they've been through, right? And you just get introduced to Batman in this movie. And actually, for the cameos that the Justice League do have, I don't feel like when I see them all together, I'm going to be like, great, cool.
Yes,
Yeah.
I know.
You know what I mean? Because I don't know them. I don't care.
Yeah.
This because David, you've been saying this whole month that this movie is going to break or.
Oh,
or
and
make
I did
this-
say that.
Yeah,
and you're
Justice
right.
League.
I do believe, and this is easily going to be one of the, and I said it last week, one of the top 2 or 3 movies of 2016.
But over that, just too, you were saying that like this movie was going to either
It's
hurt
still,
it or going to make
but
this
see,
thing
here's
go
the thing,
any further.
and you're right, and I guess the hype was so big around this movie, and I still believe this. Don't get me wrong, listeners, I still believe this. Here's the thing, the hype was so big around this because there was so many components and variables. You had Batman, you had Superman, you had DC finally getting into a comic book film. You had all of these things that they went, wow, we're actually going to put this on screen.
Yeah.
And the other thing I think, too, is something to mention is the fact that there's been a 2 or 3 year gap between Man of Steel and this. If you look at Marvel, what they're doing is they're putting out 2 movies a year.
And in fact, this movie was postponed. It was supposed to come out in 2015 originally when it was announced.
Right.
They postponed it for various reasons. And I think that you put it perfectly there was like, the movie was so hyped, but I think it was also so hyped because it was so controversial.
Right.
You know what I mean? From the get-go. It was like, okay, great. So we're doing a Man of Steel sequel with Batman in it. For right away, I don't have that status quo yet.
No.
Then the casting, every time someone was cast, someone was like, oh my God. I mean, like, Ben Affleck, there was a petition. Jesse Eisenberg as Lex Luthor.
Which, by the way, I thought he stole the show.
Yeah.
I thought he
was
stole
very
the
wacky.
absolute
I'd
show.
have to disagree with that, only because what we know Lex Luthor is to be is this man who's very centered and gravitated.
Yes.
At first, at least. Before he has his head shaved and he's a different
But
character.
you don't see a lot of him in the 11 minutes.
I wish I did, to be honest with you.
Right. In the 11 minutes
There were some
that we
scenes that you
saw
could take out
of
and put
all
him
of
in
the
there.
all of the trailers, we saw maybe 2 minutes of Luthor, I would say. We didn't get to see the real, true Lex Luthor. Now, the fact that he was able to play that role and be as psychotic and as, what's the word I want, as eccentric, that, wow, this guy's actually pretty good. And I was talking about a scene right before the party where Bruce and Clark meet, and he goes up, and his thoughts are just all around.
Yeah, no one understood
And
him. They just thought it
so,
was weird.
exactly, and I think you really started to get that. Now he's realized this is a madman.
Right.
And
So it's really for the audience to assume that, like, portray Lex Luthor is just, he is crazy. This
Right.
man is
You know what he
And
felt
now-
like? He felt like a Batman villain more
Right.
than anything, which
Yes.
is weird because Lex
Yeah.
Luthor is the character of Lex Luthor is like the utter arrogance of like this Kryptonian,
And,
like
I mean,
someone better than us.
you know,
Yeah.
of course,
But he's also grounded and he's also like he's a philanthropist. He does things for the people, for
Yes,
Earth.
that's exactly
you know what I mean?
he says. He's a philanthropist.
You know, of course, the
philanthropist
scene-
means someone who cares. about
Kevin
his community.
Spacey, regardless of what you think about Superman Returns, which is not a great movie.
No. But
Kevin
he
Spacey
played
is
the
the best
role
part of
very
that
well.
movie because of his character of Lex Luthor. If you had someone like Bryan Cranston, an older Lex Luthor, a wiser Lex Luthor, someone who's more grounded, who's less psychotic, who's
Yeah.
like just, yeah, my methods are bad, but
I know, yeah, but you have
this guy's
you
bad.
just-
We gotta
the-
take him
the
out.
means
Who's
just
ju-
always
the-
been crazy.
the means
His father
justify
just,
the
like,
end.
Gave the money to him. And
I
he
felt
was
at
playing
times
with it.
Jesse Eisenberg was playing like a Riddler or like a Joker
Yes.
in some cases. I was like, wow, this is really wacky. Like he's all over the place.
Yeah, no,
You know what I mean?
and I just think, I mean, even the scene when they're on the roof, and he's
Oh,
like, I hate
absolutely.
you so much. There's so much, you know.
And he's like in his Indian style. He's just
Yes.
like, I hate you so much, and he really is that way.
Yeah.
He just seems like a kid there.
The thing about that, what I hate so much, is that they never tell you why he hates Superman so much. Is like
Yeah,
he gives this analogy of
true.
like he's like, oh my I think he was like he's like a grandfather. Was
Yeah.
Like when tyrants would walk by or
Right.
something like that. Something
Yeah.
like that. It was something weird. But Lex Luthor has a reason for hating Superman because of the fact that he's jealous.
Yeah.
Because he can't be as powerful as he could.
right.
Yeah.
And I just didn't get that. I just thought he was just a plot device.
You know what?
You know what I mean?
You know it's funny because you say this, and I'm now thinking about it. Maybe Batman or Bruce Wayne played that character even better than
Yeah.
Lex Luthor did because
Yeah.
he was really the grounded man,
Right.
Who really wanted this strength in humanity to be the overwhelming thing that
Yeah.
protects the human race.
And that shot at the beginning when he's holding the little girl and
Yes.
he's like, "Where's your mother?" And he's like, she
Yeah.
points to the,
Yeah.
Yeah.
You can see in his eyes that Batman becomes like, I'm taking this guy
Angry.
down.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Angry.
And that, to me, should have been the role more of what Lex Luthor was.
Yes.
Because Lex Luthor could be, I mean,
Yes.
he was kind of puppeteering everything.
Yes,
Oh my
and
God.
puppet
he
master
is.
behind
yes.
us.
That is the perfect word for Luther.
I think they
He's
were
a puppet-
they were mixed in
puppeteer.
too much.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I just think that
Their rules.
You know, it's one of those things that well, at its core, what you were saying, I guess we just have to see what happens with the next movie,
Right.
whatever it is,
Yeah.
because you know, Warner Brothers it's Warner Brothers. They have over $1 billion invested in these movies.
Yeah.
And this is the type of thing that is either going to go really well for them,
Yeah.
or it's going to go horribly
See,
south.
that's
for
why
'em.
I'm not so surprised about not having a trailer at the end or a little scene at the end because you were saying like it could either hurt them or it can
And
help them.
and so they're playing it safe, essentially. I just think that my feeling is if you see something that's successful, you want to try and duplicate,
Yeah, I mean, that's
replicate,
expected.
copy it, no matter what it is, because it's successful.
Yeah.
It works. I just don't see how. Even I would have been. You know what? I would have been great. I would have been happy with the film ending, and then I would have been happy with the film ending, and the final sequence you see with Batman and Luthor in the jail. I'd have been happy with that being your
Sure.
your
The ending.
final cutscene
That would have been
after the credit scene.
Because in that scene, because of the fact that Lex Luthor went to the ship and the Kryptonian, I think it was like the AI.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She was like, "Do you want all the knowledge
Yeah.
in the world?" And he
Yeah,
has
yeah.
and he
He
says
said,
something
"Yes,
like "tick
yes,
tick tick,
please."
he's coming," which is foreshadowing Darkseid.
Exactly.
So that would have been great because it
that
does
would have
everything
been
for
a
you.
perfect cutscene.
Absolutely.
So you end it, credits roll midway through.
Yeah, you didn't
see
force
his-
anything in.
You see him. He's in his shackles. He's tapping his foot. You know, they shave his head.
Oh my gosh.
Okay.
Yes,
They
that'd have
come
been so
in.
much
David
better.
Caduto,
Okay.
for director of
And
Justice League Part
so-
1.
Oh yeah.
They do that. They cut to black. They go into the cage. Okay, you know, put your head against the wall, otherwise you're gonna get zapped. Lights go out. Batman appears. By the way, what did that also remind you of? Dark Knight. With the
sure,
Joker.
yeah, I didn't
and
think about that.
when they when the Joker's sitting there and it goes black and
Yeah.
boom. Ow, you can't do that. The victim always gets fuzzy. That's exactly what it reminded you
Right.
of, at least
Yeah.
me of.
Yeah.
That being said, he shows up and he gets right up in Luthor's face. And then, you know, whatever happens, he's about to brand him and then he walks out. He's coming in. That would have been the
There's
perfect
so much.
cutscene.
There's so much more that we have to talk about.
Yeah.
It just seems
no,
like
that
this-
would have
these
been
topics
the
would never
perfect
go on.
cutscene because
Ugh.
you're setting up Darkseid. You know Luthor's in jail and he's gonna get out, and he's now officially, because let's face it, nobody really. Lex Luthor is bald. I think what you saw in this movie was the preview of the upcoming Lex Luthor, because yes, he was psychotic and maniac and whatever else, and zany, but he was at his core. He wasn't Lex Luthor. He had hair. I think
So
now
now
what
they've
you
changed
see
his-
is
they've literally
he's
changed his
completely
character.
transitioned. He's now got his head shaved. He's now out for vengeance. He now wants to beat everybody down.
Yeah.
And I think that at its core, the minute he gets his head shaved, that's it.
But I just wish there was a better reason.
I think that could have been your cutscene. You're previewing Darkseid.
Mm.
You're previewing. I mean, let's face it. And that's the other thing too. If you're previewing the Justice League coming up, when Bruce is standing there with her, well, we have to get these others together. We want to, I want to find these other people. Okay. Well, they're probably going to have to fight. Well, why do you say that? Just a hunch.
Right.
Okay?
Mm-hmm.
Then you honestly, and I understand that previewing the villain, but then that's when you can completely let it go. You didn't need to show that, and then that could have been your cutscene.
Imagine he says just a hunch. Shot pans to the coffin with the dirt elevates. That's your final shot. You could keep
Yeah.
that. Then you have that scene at the end with the prison. It would have been.
That would have been
I would have
perfect.
I would have left the theater, been like, all right. Overall, not the greatest movie, but it
But-
got me at the end.
Yeah.
But it just falls flat. And I think
Yeah.
overall this movie fell flat. It was so bold. It was so hyped. It was so everything that you wish you could be. Just didn't live up to.
No.
And I-
And I think they try to rush everything. They really had all
Yes.
these scenes too packed together, and they were like, all right, what do we do? Okay, so who's
Yeah.
doing this? Who's doing that? And
Yep.
then they just thought, okay, so let's put this scene together. You were working on that. Let's put that together.
Yeah.
And you're right. And I think that the scenes didn't really match together well.
Overall, the movie just feels rushed, and
it
every
was.
scene is rushed, every character is rushed, everything is shoehorned in. I think at its core, Batman vs Superman: Dawn of Justice is a movie that wants to be better than it really is.
Yeah, I
You know
think
what I
the
mean?
hype
Which is
was
scary
better than
for the Justice League and the movies
right,
to come.
and I think the hype was better than the
Yeah.
actual product, because if we hype this as as people, as fans and media and whatnot,
Yeah.
we hype this and we listen to this and we get on board with this, and then we see it and we're just.
I mean, these movies.
I think a lot of people leaving the theater, they probably wouldn't say it
I'm
publicly, but they'd be let down.
Yeah.
I'm really worried for the next movie now, Suicide Squad.
Yeah, and
I'm
I
a little
think-
less worried now,
I
actually,
think
because of
here's
that.
the thing about that. I think everybody that I've spoken to, I know you're a huge proponent of.
I want to see it, I really do.
Everybody
Not
is
Zack
on-
Snyder.
is looking forward
Yes.
towards Suicide Squad now, because this is the movie that shows your anti-heroes.
Yeah.
Okay, with Deadshot and the Joker, even though he's not part of the squad.
Right.
Well,
But
Batman
you've
is now
got,
our anti-hero.
but it's like Harley Quinn and all these others.
Yeah.
Croc. Now we've got something.
And it's also not. I mean, it's also the people behind the movie that I'm more. The director, I think his name's.
Yeah, I'll come up with that momentarily.
But he's directing and writing it, and he's got a good
David
track
Ayer.
record. Yes, and he's got a great track record.
Yes.
He's not Zack Snyder, which I'm so happy about, because
Yes.
I want to see a movie in this universe without Zack Snyder
Yeah.
directing it. To be
Yeah,
honest with you.
and I just think that this is the movie that everybody, they were looking for.
Yeah.
toward
Yeah,
us.
and if this
It
does
really
well-
was.
Strike one or strike two, I mean.
Well,
Strike
this
two.
one, if
All right,
Suicide
Man of
Squad
Steel.
does well, I think we can give Batman a pass. I really do, just on mere principle.
Okay.
So, okay, so that's going to about wrap it up. I want to thank Sam for coming in, because
thanks
this
for
was a
having me.
fantastic thing, and
Thank you, Sam.
Aaron.
Yeah, no problem.
So we are going to. I want to just briefly talk about next week. Next week we're going to try and get together, and we're starting the month of April. We are going to discuss genres in April. And genres, like I said last week, they're not going to be your run-of-the-mill horror or action or drama. Next week we're going to talk about faith-based films, just because Easter's right around the corner, and it is a huge growing market that 2 or 3 are coming out this year alone, and it's one of those genres that doesn't get talked about a lot, but it's big money out there. The week after that, we're going to talk about 80s films. Breakfast Club, St. Elmo's Fire, all of those fantastic films, flashback there. And then week after that, we're probably going to hit on cult films. These one-hit wonders that basically you know of just by the name of the movie, The Devil's Advocate, Manhunter, all these great movies. And so that's going to be a blast. So, like I said, I want to thank Aaron and Sam for being here. And I'm David Caduto, and you've been listening to C&E.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
All right.